You are about to enter a place where doctors became killers, science turned into torture, and secrecy protected some of the worst crimes of the 20th century. This is the story of Unit 731, a covert program that used human lives as test subjects. You are watching HEH TV. You get direct facts, clear reporting, and stories that reveal the darkest chapters of history. Unit 731 operated in Japanese-occupied Manchuria during the Second World War. It looked like a research center. It functioned as a military factory of death. The unit focused on biological warfare. It focused on weapons that targeted the human body at its weakest points. The Japanese Imperial Army recruited doctors, microbiologists, and surgeons. They trained them to remove emotion from their work. They trained them to treat prisoners as material. The facility held Chinese civilians, Korean prisoners, Soviet captives, and others taken during wartime operations. These people became subjects for experiments that ignored every ethical rule. Researchers infected them with plague. They exposed them to cholera. They tested frostbite by placing limbs in ice water and watching the damage progress. They performed vivisections. These were surgeries on living people without anesthesia. The goal was to observe internal organs under extreme stress. This work produced data for battlefield planning. It allowed Japan to study how diseases moved through the body. It allowed officers to learn how long a soldier could survive certain injuries. The unit also tested weapons. Bombs were filled with bacteria. Researchers measured how far infection would spread after detonation. They released fleas carrying plague into villages. They tested poisons. They exposed prisoners to chemical burns. Each experiment produced notes and charts for military use. The data became the core of Japan's biological warfare program. Unit 731 tried to create weapons that could target entire cities. They wanted tools that could break enemy morale and shift wars without large armies. The secrecy around Unit 731 was tight. The facility had high walls. It used fake research departments to hide the real work. Staff signed confidentiality agreements. Officers moved documents through secure channels. Prisoners who entered the unit almost never left. Many were kept in isolated cells. Guards monitored them constantly. Escape was impossible. The surrounding region knew nothing about the true function of the building. The Imperial Army controlled the town. They removed any rumor that could expose the operation. The collapse of Japan in 1945 exposed the truth. The unit destroyed evidence as Soviet forces advanced. They burned records. They killed remaining prisoners. They cleaned laboratories. They tried to erase every trace of the crimes. Despite this, soldiers captured documents and interrogated staff. Testimonies revealed the scale of the experiments. The United States later granted immunity to many scientists in exchange for the data they collected. This decision protected people who committed severe human rights violations. It allowed them to return to normal life. Some gained prestigious careers. Their victims received no justice. The full record of Unit 731 shows how a state can distort science. It shows how government ideology can override ethics. It shows how ordinary professionals can become part of systematic cruelty. The data from these experiments helped Japan plan biological attacks on China. Historical files show proposals to spread plague in major cities. They also show how Japan considered launching biological bombs on the United States. These plans never reached completion, but the intention was clear. The crimes of Unit 731 remained hidden for decades. Survivors tried to share their stories. Many were ignored. New documents surfaced in later years. They came from Soviet trials. They came from Japanese whistleblowers. They came from declassified files in the United States. Each file added more detail to the record. Each testimony confirmed that the crimes were deliberate. They were not accidents. They were not mistakes. They were strategies built into military planning. Today, the story of Unit 731 stands as one of the darkest examples of wartime science. It shows how secrecy can protect criminals. It shows how governments can rewrite memory. It shows how vulnerable civilians become when war removes basic human rights. You learn how extreme military ambition can reshape medicine into a weapon. You learn how history must be documented to prevent denial. This chapter reminds you that truth must be protected. It also reminds you that nations can hide crimes for generations until evidence forces the world to confront the past.